34-year-old Dermot Blake is sitting in a jail cell here tonight. It's where he'll stay through at least mid-December, accused of murdering his wife in front of their 2 children.
I just shot my wife. The voice on the 911 call is calm. Too calm. It's 12:51 in the morning on February 20th, 2021. The dispatcher asks the obvious question, "Is she breathing?" "No," the man replies. "She's a terrible person." When police arrive at the Colorado Springs townhouse, they find 30-year-old Tashiana Blake lying in the hallway. She's been shot 6 times, in front of her 2 children. This wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a stranger breaking into a home. This was a father, a husband, a military sergeant who had sworn to protect and serve. So what happened? What could make a man murder his wife while forcing their children to watch? The answer is more disturbing than you might think. Welcome to our channel. If you want to help spread awareness about domestic violence and the warning signs that could save innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another woman who might be in danger. Before we talk about how Tashiana died, we need to understand who she was when she was alive. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you all have a great time with your family. I'm glad my family's here. Kelsey, say hi. That's Tashiana's voice in a video from Thanksgiving Day. She's filming her family gathered in their Colorado home. Her daughters are there, saying hello to the camera. Dermot is there too. At one point, he jokes about how Tashiana did all the cooking because he couldn't even make the lasagna right.
Mom, she did all the cooking, thank God, because I was struggling. Couldn't even make the lasagna right, but it's okay. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you all have a great time with your family. I'm glad my family's here. Woo!
Everyone laughs. It looks like any other American family celebrating the holiday. But Tashiana was so much more than what you see in that video. At 30 years old, she was building a life she could be proud of. She was a real estate agent, and she was good at it. There's another video of her online, a virtual open house tour. "Hey everyone, welcome to my first virtual open house," she says with a bright smile. "My name is Tashi." She walks through the property with confidence, pointing out features, talking to potential buyers. You can see the pride in her voice. This was a woman who worked hard and loved what she did. Her social media pages were filled with moments like these: photos of her daughters, posts about properties she was selling, updates about her career. To anyone scrolling through her accounts, Tashiana looked like she had it all figured out. She was deeply connected to her Jamaican roots. Family meant everything to her. Her parents would later say that she always put her children first, no matter what. Those 2 little girls, ages 7 and 5, were her whole world. She made sure they had everything they needed. She cooked for them. She celebrated holidays with them. She showed up for them every single day. Tashiana was the kind of mother who made Thanksgiving dinner from scratch, the kind who filmed family moments to remember them later, the kind who balanced a growing career with raising 2 young daughters. She was vibrant. She was ambitious. She had dreams. But there was something else happening behind the scenes. Something her social media didn't show. Something that didn't make it into those happy Thanksgiving videos. Because while Tashiana was building her career and raising her children, her marriage was falling apart. And the man she had once loved was becoming someone she feared. The perfect life she showed the world wasn't the life she was living at home. And that gap between what people saw and what was really happening? That's where the danger was hiding. On paper, Dermot and Tashiana Blake looked like the ideal couple. They were both Jamaican. They shared the same culture, the same values, the same understanding of what family meant. When they got together, it seemed like a natural fit. 2 people from the same background building a life in America together. Dermot was 33 years old and serving as a sergeant at Fort Carson Military Base in Colorado Springs. He'd been in the Army for about 4.5 years. His job was as a signals equipment maintainer. Basically, he was a radio expert. He came from Lawrenceville, Georgia, and had built a solid military career. To the people around him, Dermot was disciplined, focused, a man who had his life together. Together, Dermot and Tashiana had 2 daughters. They owned a beautiful townhouse in a quiet neighborhood in Colorado Springs. It was the kind of place where families felt safe, where children played outside, where neighbors knew each other's names. From the outside, they had everything. A stable income from Dermot's military job, Tashiana's growing real estate career, 2 healthy children, a nice home. They looked like a couple who had made it. Friends and neighbors saw them as a strong family unit. Dermot was the military man, reliable, steady, committed to serving his country. Tashiana was the ambitious mother, balancing work and family with grace. Their daughters were well cared for. Their home was welcoming. When you watched those Thanksgiving videos, you saw a father joking with his family, a mother cooking for everyone she loved, children laughing and playing. It was the American dream playing out in real time. But here's the thing about facades. They only work when people aren't looking too closely. Because while Dermot presented himself as the devoted husband and father, something else was happening behind closed doors. While Tashiana smiled for the camera and posted about her success, she was dealing with problems most people never saw. The townhouse that looked so perfect. Police had been called there multiple times. The marriage that seemed so strong. Tashiana had tried to end it. The man who joked about lasagna on Thanksgiving, he had been accused of hitting his wife. The cracks were already there. They'd been there for a while. Most people just didn't know where to look. July 2019. Tashiana made a decision that should have changed everything. She filed for divorce. This wasn't a small step. This was a woman with 2 young children, a shared home, and a husband in the military. Filing for divorce meant she had reached a breaking point. It meant things had gotten bad enough that she was willing to tear apart the life they'd built together. Court records show the filing happened in July 2019. But here's where it gets complicated. Just 3 months later, in October 2019, Tashiana dropped the divorce. The case was closed. The details were sealed, so we don't know exactly what was said or what promises were made. But whatever happened, Tashiana decided to stay. Or maybe she felt like she had no choice. Because the police records tell a different story than those Thanksgiving videos. Officers had been called to the Blake home multiple times for domestic disturbances. Multiple times. This wasn't a one-time argument that got out of hand. This was a pattern. In one incident that happened after Tashiana filed for divorce, police showed up to the house for a verbal argument. When officers arrived, both Tashiana and Dermot told them the same thing. It was just an argument. Nothing physical. Nothing to worry about. But someone else told police something different. An unnamed person said that Dermot had hit Tashiana. Despite this allegation, no charges were filed. The case was closed. Dermot faced no consequences. Think about that for a moment. Someone reported physical abuse. Police were standing right there. And nothing happened. It gets worse. At some point, Tashiana filed a restraining order against Dermot. A restraining order is a legal document that says someone has to stay away from you because you're afraid of them. It's not something you file lightly. It's a cry for help. But Tashiana withdrew it. She took it back. Why would she do that? Was she pressured? Was she scared of what would happen if she followed through? Did Dermot promise to change? Did she worry about money? Or the children? Or what people would think? We don't know. But we do know this happens all the time in abusive relationships. Victims seek help, then pull back. They file charges, then drop them. They leave, then return. It's not weakness. It's survival in a situation where every choice feels dangerous. So Tashiana stayed. The divorce was dropped. The restraining order was withdrawn. To the outside world, they had worked things out. But inside that townhouse, things were getting worse. The arguments became more frequent, more intense. The tension was building. Tashiana was trying to focus on her career, on her daughters, on building some kind of normal life. But the weight of living with someone who scared her was taking its toll. She had tried to leave. She had tried to get protection. She had tried to make the system work for her, and the system had failed. Put yourself in Tashiana's shoes for a second. You've filed for divorce. You've called the police. You've tried to get a restraining order. and you're still living in the same house with someone who's hurt you? What would you have done in Tashiana's position? Because what she did next was try to survive. And that's all she could do. Let's be clear about what happened here. Tashiana did everything she was supposed to do. She filed for divorce when the marriage became dangerous. She called the police when things got violent. She filed a restraining order when she needed protection. These are exactly the steps we tell abuse victims to take. Get help, use the system, protect yourself. And the system let her down at every turn. When Tashiana withdrew the restraining order, there was no follow-up. No one checked on her. No one asked if she was safe or if she was being pressured to drop it. The system just moved on. Here's what makes this so frustrating. Domestic violence cases are complicated. Victims often go back to their abusers. They drop charges, they reconcile, they say everything is fine when it's not. This isn't new information. Law enforcement knows this. Courts know this. Social workers know this. So why isn't there more support? Why isn't there follow-up? Why do we wait until someone is dead to take these cases seriously? By the time Thanksgiving 2020 came around, Tashiana had been asking for help for over a year. She had used every tool available to her, and she was still living in that house with Dermot. Still trying to survive. Still hoping tomorrow would be different. Thanksgiving Day 2020. The Blake family is together in their Colorado home. Tashiana is in the kitchen. She spent hours preparing the meal, turkey, sides, all the traditional dishes. The smell of food fills the house. Her daughters are excited, running around, full of energy the way kids get on holidays. Dermot is filming. He's talking to the camera, narrating the day like families do. "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone," he says. "I hope you all have a great time with your family. I'm glad my family's here." He calls to the girls. "Kelsey, say hi. Kelly, say hi." They respond. Their voice is bright and cheerful. Then Dermot turns the camera toward Tashiana. "Mom, she did all the cooking," he says. "Thank God, 'cause I was struggling. Couldn't even make the lasagna, right?" He laughs. It sounds genuine, warm even. But it's okay. If you watch this video without knowing what comes next, you'd see a normal family. A father grateful for his wife's cooking, children enjoying the holiday, a mother working hard to make the day special. There's laughter. There's togetherness. There's the kind of ordinary happiness that millions of families experience on Thanksgiving. But if you look closer, if you know what's coming, you might notice something. The way Tashiana doesn't say much, the way the camera focuses on everyone else, the way this video, like so many others, shows the surface, but not what's underneath. This is the last time the Blake family will be together like this. The last holiday, the last normal day. In just a few months, this same hallway where the children are playing will become a crime scene, and the man holding the camera will be the one who destroys it all. The hours after Thanksgiving dinner are quiet at first. The meal is over, the dishes are done, the children are getting ready for bed. But then something shifts. An argument starts between Tashiana and Dermot. We don't know exactly what triggered it. Maybe it was something small, a comment, a look, a tone of voice. Or maybe it was something that had been building for weeks. The exact details of what started the fight are unclear. What we do know is this. Dermot wanted Tashiana to apologize for something, and Tashiana refused. In a healthy relationship, this would be a minor disagreement, maybe some raised voices, maybe some frustration. Then it would blow over. But this wasn't a healthy relationship. The tension in the house grows. The argument doesn't end. It doesn't cool down. Instead, it gets worse. The anger builds. The control Dermot has always tried to maintain over Tashiana is slipping, and he can feel it. Hours pass. The children go to sleep in their room. The house goes quiet, but the argument isn't over. As the clock moves past midnight into the early morning hours of February 20th, 2021, something inside Dermot snaps. Or maybe it doesn't snap at all. Maybe this is exactly what he planned to do, because what happens next isn't an accident. It isn't a moment of lost control. It's deliberate. It's violent. And it happens right in front of his daughters. It's just after midnight. The house is dark. The two girls are asleep in their bedroom. Then, they hear it. Gunshots. The 7-year-old wakes up first. The sound is loud, sharp, terrifying. She doesn't understand what's happening. Her younger sister, only 5 years old, is stirring too. They're confused, scared. Then they hear their father's voice. "Come out," Dermot calls to them. "Come out of your room." The girls don't want to. Something feels wrong. But he's their father. So they listen. They open the door and step into the hallway. What they see will stay with them for the rest of their lives. Their mother is lying on the floor. Blood is everywhere. Tashiana is hurt, badly hurt. But she's still conscious, still breathing. The girls freeze. They don't know what to do. They don't understand what's happening. Dermot is standing there, he's holding a gun, and then he speaks to Tashiana. "Apologize," he tells her. Tashiana is bleeding. She's in pain. She's terrified. Her daughters are watching. So she does what he asks. Maybe she thinks if she just says the words, this will stop. Maybe she thinks she can still survive this. "I'm sorry," Tashiana says. Dermot shoots her in the head. The girls scream. They're crying, shaking, begging him to stop, but he doesn't stop. He fires again, and again, and again. 6 shots total. 6 bullets into the woman he married, the mother of his children, the person who cooked Thanksgiving dinner just hours ago. The 7-year-old is begging now. "Stop, Daddy. Please stop," she cries. Finally, he does. Tashiana Blake is dead. Her daughters are standing in the hallway, covered in the trauma of what they've just witnessed. Their mother's blood is on the floor. Their father is holding the gun that killed her. And then Dermot does something that shows just how cold he really is. He pulls out his phone and calls 911. It's 12:51 a.m. "I just shot my wife," he tells the dispatcher. His voice is calm. There's no panic, no remorse. He sounds like he's reporting a broken streetlight. The dispatcher asks if she's breathing. "No," Dermot says. Then he adds something that makes your blood run cold. "She's a terrible person." Not, "I made a mistake," not, "I need help," not, "What have I done?" just, "She's a terrible person." As if that justifies what he's done. As if shooting your wife 6 times in front of your children is reasonable if you're angry enough. When police arrive at the house on Squawbush Ridge Grove, they find exactly what Dermot described. Tashiana is dead in the hallway. Dermot is covered in blood. The 2 girls are there, unharmed physically, but destroyed emotionally. Officers detain Dermot immediately. He doesn't resist. He doesn't run. He's already admitted what he did. The children are taken to the police operations center. They're scared, confused, traumatized beyond measure. They've just watched their father murder their mother. They've just lost both parents in one night. One to death, one to prison. Later, investigators will review the doorbell camera footage from that night. It shows Dermot walking around the house just before the shooting. This wasn't a sudden loss of control. This wasn't an accident. The footage suggests he knew what he was about to do. He shot Tashiana 6 times. Not once in a moment of rage. 6 times. That takes intent. That takes time. That takes a decision made over and over again with each pull of the trigger. And he did it while his daughters watched. By the time the sun comes up on February 20th, 2021, Tashiana Blake is gone. Her daughters are orphans. And Dermot is in custody, facing charges of first-degree murder and 2 counts of child abuse. The Thanksgiving video is still online. You can still see them laughing together. You can still hear Dermot joking about the lasagna. But that family is gone forever. Later that morning, detectives from the Colorado Springs Police Department's Violent Crimes section apply for an arrest warrant. It's approved quickly. Dermot Andrew Blake, 33 years old, is officially charged with murder in the first degree and 2 counts of child abuse. The child abuse charges are critical. Dermot didn't just kill Tashiana. He forced his daughters to watch. He called them out of their room specifically so they would see it. That's not just murder. That's deliberate psychological torture of children. Dermot is transported to the El Paso County Jail. No bond is set. He's not going anywhere. On February 22nd, 2 days after the shooting, the El Paso County Coroner's Office completes the autopsy. They officially identify the victim as 30-year-old Tashiana Blake. The cause of death will be determined by the coroner, but police are already treating this as a homicide. An active investigation continues. Detectives start building their case. They review the doorbell camera footage from the night of the murder. It shows Dermot moving around the house just before the gunshots. This is important because it suggests planning. If this was a sudden loss of control, you wouldn't see someone calmly walking around beforehand. They also notice something else. Dermot shot Tashiana 6 times. 6 separate pulls of the trigger, 6 separate decisions to keep going. That's not an impulsive act. That's sustained violence. Investigators look into Dermot's background. He's been in the Army for 4.5 years. He's a sergeant at Fort Carson, working as a signals equipment maintainer. His home of record is Lawrenceville, Georgia. They check for any history of trauma or mental health issues that might explain his actions. They find nothing significant. What they do find is a history of domestic violence. Police had been called to the Blake home multiple times. Tashiana had filed for divorce. She'd filed a restraining order. There were allegations of physical abuse. This wasn't a one-time incident. This was the final act in a pattern of control and violence. Detectives also notice inconsistencies in what Dermot tells them. He tries to describe the shooting as something that just happened, an impulsive moment he couldn't control. But the evidence tells a different story. The doorbell footage, the 6 shots, the fact that he called his daughters out to watch. This wasn't impulse, this was punishment. This was control taken to its most extreme form. And now, it was murder. It takes nearly 2 years for the case to go to trial. In November 2022, Dermot Blake finally faces a jury. He pleads not guilty to all charges, first-degree murder and 2 counts of child abuse. His defense team tries to paint this as a tragic mistake. They argue that Dermot had been drinking that night, that alcohol clouded his judgment, that this was a momentary lapse, a terrible decision made in a moment of anger, not a planned execution. They want the jury to see this as something that just happened, an accident, a loss of control. But the prosecution has a different story to tell. They present the doorbell camera footage showing Dermot walking around the house before the shooting. They present the testimony of his 2 daughters, who watched their father call them out of their room, demand an apology from their mother, and then shoot her 6 times. 6 times. The prosecution makes it clear this wasn't a momentary lapse. This was deliberate. This was sustained. Dermot had 6 opportunities to stop. 6 moments where he could have put the gun down. He didn't. They present the history of domestic violence, the police calls, the divorce filing, the restraining order, the pattern of control and abuse that had been building for years. They present the 911 call, where Dermot calmly admits what he's done and calls Tashiana a terrible person. No remorse, no panic, just cold justification. The jury hears all of it. They see the evidence. They hear from witnesses. They deliberate. And then they come back with their verdict. Guilty, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty on both counts of child abuse. The courtroom reacts. Tashiana's family feels a wave of relief mixed with grief. Justice is being served, but it doesn't bring her back. It doesn't undo what those little girls saw. Dermot is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will never walk free again. He will never have the chance to hurt anyone else. The judge also adds sentences for the child abuse charges, making it clear that what he did to his daughters, forcing them to witness their mother's murder, was unforgivable. Dermot Blake will die in prison, but Tashiana Blake is still gone, and her daughters still have to live with what they saw. 2 little girls lost everything that night. They were 7 and 5 years old when they watched their father kill their mother. In one moment, they lost both parents, one to death, one to prison. Their entire world collapsed. After the shooting, the girls were placed in the care of their maternal grandparents. Tashiana's parents, already devastated by the loss of their daughter, now had to raise her children. They had to help these girls process trauma that most adults couldn't handle. The emotional damage is deep. These children didn't just lose their mother, They witnessed her murder. They heard the gunshots. They saw the blood. They heard her final words. They begged their father to stop, and he didn't listen. That kind of trauma doesn't just go away. It shapes how you see the world, how you trust people, how you sleep at night. These girls will carry this with them forever. But they're not alone. The community rallied around them. A GoFundMe campaign was set up to help with funeral costs and to support the girls as they tried to rebuild their lives. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers donated. People wanted to help in whatever way they could. Tashiana's parents have spoken about their daughter's love for her children. They've said she always put them first, no matter what. Now they're trying to honor that by giving the girls the stable, loving home Tashiana wanted for them. The road ahead is long. Therapy, grief, questions that don't have good answers. Growing up without a mother. Growing up knowing what their father did. But there's also resilience. Children are stronger than we think. With love, support, and time, they can heal. Not completely. Some wounds never fully close, but they can build lives worth living. They can survive this, because that's what their mother would have wanted. Tashiana Blake did everything right, and she still died. That's the hard truth we need to face. She filed for divorce. She called the police. She filed a restraining order. She used every tool the system gave her. And it wasn't enough. So what can we learn from this? How do we prevent the next Tashiana? First, we need to understand the red flags of domestic violence. It's not always obvious. It doesn't always leave bruises. Sometimes it starts with control, checking your phone, isolating you from friends, controlling money. Then it becomes verbal abuse, then threats, then physical violence. By the time someone is in serious danger, the pattern has been building for months or years. In Tashiana's case, the signs were there. Multiple police calls, a divorce filing that was dropped, a restraining order that was withdrawn. These aren't signs that everything is fine. These are signs that someone is trapped. Second, the system needs to do better. When police respond to domestic violence calls, they need to follow up, even if the victim says everything is okay. When someone withdraws a restraining order, someone should check why. When charges are dropped, there should be support services offered automatically. Abusers rely on the system being too slow, too overwhelmed, or too indifferent to stop them. We have to prove them wrong. Third, we need to believe victims. When someone says they're being hurt, we need to listen, not judge, not ask what they did to provoke it, not wonder why they don't just leave. Leaving is the most dangerous time for a victim. Tashiana tried to leave, and the violence escalated. Fourth, if you're in the military community, know that domestic violence happens there too. The stress of military life, access to weapons, and a culture that sometimes values toughness over vulnerability can make it harder for victims to get help. Military leadership needs to take these cases seriously and provide real support. Finally, if you're watching this and you're in an abusive relationship, or you know someone who is, please reach out. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. It's free, it's confidential. They can help you make a safety plan. And if you're a friend or family member who suspects someone is being abused, don't wait. Ask them directly. Offer support. Help them find resources. Your intervention could save a life. Share this story. Talk about it. The more we bring domestic violence out of the shadows, the harder it is for abusers to hide. Tashiana couldn't be saved, but the next person can be. Let's make sure they are. Tashiana Blake was 30 years old when she died. She had a career she was proud of, 2 daughters she loved more than anything, dreams for the future. She was more than a victim. She was a mother, a professional, a daughter, a friend. She had a smile that lit up rooms. She had ambition. She had strength. Her daughters are growing up without her now. They'll never get to show her their report cards, never get to introduce her to their friends, never get to call her when life gets hard. That's what Dermot took from them. But Tashiana's story doesn't end with her death. It continues every time someone hears it and decides to do better. Every time someone leaves an abusive relationship. Every time someone believes a victim. Every time the system actually protects someone instead of failing them. Tashiana tried to survive. She fought to protect herself and her children. She deserved better than what she got. We can't bring her back, but we can honor her memory by making sure fewer people suffer the same fate. Domestic violence thrives in silence. So let's keep talking, keep listening, keep fighting. For Tashiana, for her daughters, for everyone still trapped in the cycle. If this story affected you, don't just move on to the next video. Do something. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. Leave a comment telling us what state or country you're watching from. Let's show how widespread this issue really is. And subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story that could save a life. Tashiana's story ended in tragedy, but yours doesn't have to, and neither does the story of someone you know. Let's break the silence. Let's save lives together.